Toronto's West End for the founding of the Toronto Tenant Union, which is just set to become the biggest tenant union in Toronto's history. It's a merger of the York South-Weston Tenant Union, which has executed the biggest rent strike in Toronto in 2023 and 2024, and Climate Justice Toronto. Inside, tenants are going to be debating the vision, structure, and strategy of the new tenant union, where tenants are going to be able to have a democratic say in an organization that represents them and defends them in Toronto.
So tenants are up against a big process of displacement. We are half of the city now, but there is this constant pressure to move out by landlords actually of all sizes, because we don't have vacancy control in Ontario. So it means that if they kick you out of your unit, the next tenant will be charged double the rent that you were paying. Some people are getting very high rent increases, sometimes illegally, sometimes legally, but that they shouldn't be legal. People don't get their units maintained. So there's this sense that people are paying more for less.
Doug Ford was doing the same. While flying in his plane, I guess, making it easier for them to gouge tenants by removing rent control as soon as he came into office.
And as a result, our rent increases were 2 to 3 times higher than rent control. Because let's not forget that 50% of the rent we pay is profit.
Many of the landlords that operate in this city don't just have one building in one neighborhood. They have dozens, hundreds of buildings sometimes. So when we put all that together, I think that's what tenants are against, or what they're being faced with today. And that's why we need a big player to push back. And that's where the tenant union comes along.
So can you tell me what made you want to get involved in a tenant union in the first place?
I'd gone through several above guideline increases in my building at 33 King Street, and some people didn't have water running in their shower for 6 months, which to me was ludicrous. And even my personal own experience in my unit with the roof coming down on us led me to know that this was the right thing to do, is to be a part of the tenant union.
Sorry, your roof fell down in your building?
Yes. And I thought my landlord would take care of me. My property management office told me they'd take care of me. And it didn't end up the way, and I ended up having taken them to the LTB. I won on my own with no representation, and they appealed it, spent thousands of dollars to appeal. So it just shows the system is not in favor of us, and we need to dismantle these systems, and having a tenant union helps do that. So that's going to be one of my goals as co-chairs, to make sure we're reaching the tenants who haven't been reached yet, who don't understand how powerful the education and the collective bargaining and the collective organizing can be for you as a tenant. Taking back power, being able to say, no, landlord, you're not coming in my unit until you give me 24 hours written notice. And that power is something that you can't take away once you've learned it.
That's how really it's snowballed in the neighborhood. The moment a building wins something, it becomes very contagious.
And then in October 2024, the rent strikes at Weston and Lawrence collectively bargained and won a settlement.
Hell yeah.
After 16 months on rent strike. We are going to take the victories from York South-Weston, and we are going to bring them to this entire city. When we fight together, we win together. So let's get shit done.
So we just voted in our first steering committee, or executive, if you'd like to call that. What's going to happen is we're going to have steering committees within each section of the city, which is York, Etobicoke, and then downtown Central and Scarborough.
We're going to fight in the space of production, which if we were in labor, it would be a factory or a workplace. In this case, is where we live.
There's a tenant union citywide in Vancouver, in Montreal. There are prominent rent strikes we take inspiration from in New York City, in Soweto against apartheid in South Africa. So I think there's a long history of tenants banding together and realizing, the landlord is just one person, or it's one executive board, but there's so many more of us.
I'm so glad that it is our friend and neighbor Saeed who is saying this, because Saeed, people, is part of the crew from 1440 Lawrence who won a massive rent strike. They had to do that because they were waiting months and months and years to get basic maintenance issues fixed in their place. So what did they do? They organized. The court literally ordered their landlord to fix those maintenance issues. That is something we could do here too.
In the left, sometimes we have these really lofty ideals about what people ought to be or what they ought to think. But I think often we don't realize that we have so much in common with our neighbor. If you live in a building and you're facing pests, your neighbor already faced pests or will face pests. Find that common ground first, because I think that's where we're strongest, because we do share so much.
Part of my extended family is the tenant union. It has become a lifeline for many people in the buildings that we have already, and we're hoping going forward it is the lifeline for other buildings, structures, and communities across the city.
Okay, so if the Toronto Tenant Union had a message to Toronto's landlords, what would it be?
Watch out.